Hey YouTube, Meef here. Welcome to episode 16 of our FTB Continuum quick tips and tricks. Today we're going to go over some of the Tech Reborn machines and then kind of go into what that takes to make that happen. One thing I wanted to bring up was if you think you have enough materials, definitely quadruple whatever you have. If you can look and see here, you can see that I don't have a whole lot of iron or lead or copper or anything left. And there's a reason for that. I guess there was some significant upgrades I made since episode 15 here. Kind of jumped around a little bit, but there's a good reason for that. Let's take a look at what we got going here. You'll notice there hasn't been a whole lot of stuff going on in here for this Factorio tab. What really happened is I've been working on this industrial rebirth. So we kind of talked about going with microwave in the last episode, and the reason for that being the electric furnace. So I wanted something that had RF. You can do these in kind of any order you want, but really what we're looking to do is to push down through here to get this more power and this R fab. So that allows us to make components through eFab's crafting system, and some of that takes RF. We'll go over a little bit of that stuff in just a little bit here, but let's take a look at some of these other machines. So we've got this industrial electrolyzer. You're going to have that. Absolutely 100% have to have it. One of the bonuses here is that they automatically give you 64 empty cells that are used in this machine, and in doing so, you're going to come up with, it's going to be titanium. And I have a couple here, but I made those separately, and that's done through that machine with this crushed bauxite ore. So you end up getting aluminum out of there, and then titanium is kind of a sub material that comes out of there. So so keep that in mind. Industrial electrolyzer, you're going to want to get that soon. I ended up with a grinder. I did the extractor on there too, and we already went there. The compressor, you're going to need the compressor to make some carbon plates, and then I kind of just went down this way. So this industrial blast furnace, this is the multi-block that you're going to have to get to in order to create titanium. And the cool thing about this is that if you do go through and make this, you're going to end up with an extra 2 titanium ingots, which is going to be helpful. Because this power upgrade, let's take a look at that bad boy quickly. Oops, I can't run a keyboard today. So the power upgrade, 4 titanium ingots. So this son of a bitch is expensive. And not only are you looking at titanium, but you're also looking at a quintuple battery. And then an advanced electronic circuit. The diamonds, I think, they're the least expensive thing in there. But along with that part of that quest, if you're following along, here is going to be the processor, and these aren't real cheap either. Oh, excuse me, not the processor. We're not there yet. What was that called? RF control. RF control is what we're looking at. And that's going to be this basic guy right here. And you're looking at a couple Lapotron crystals. Otherwise, the rest of this really isn't all that expensive. But you're going to end up making a absolute shit ton of electronic circuits, so keep that in mind. And let's take a look here. So you're looking at tons of refined iron plates. So let's go take a look at the setup I've got going. It's not complicated. In fact, it's actually really basic. There is some basic stuff we can do with it. In the previous episodes, we talked about the electric furnace and the way we can automate through sides. These machines are really no different. But as you can see here, so we've got the rolling machine. Most of these carry an internal charge, and you can kind of see that. The extractors on the low end. Most of these are at your basic input rate, so running them as, you know, 100 RF per tick will keep these guys rolling. But if you look at this industrial electrolyzer, this is where things get kind of expensive. Right now I've got some bauxite dust here. I don't have any cells that we can put in there right now, but you get 64. throw a stack of 64 in here, it ends up being aluminum, titanium, and then hydrogen and compressed air. And those end up in cells. Right now I've been saving those because I'm not exactly 100% sure where those belong. But seeing as they are showing up in cells, I've just kind of been storing those. Keep in mind that these act like buckets. So you can dump these out. I dumped some compressed air cells on the floor and it fucked all my torches up. So be careful with those bad boys. And just kind of be mindful that those do kind of function like that. That's about it for these machines. These aren't complicated. If you've played with Tech Reborn before, these shouldn't have changed that much. Biggest thing is I think the recipes have probably changed slightly. And let's take a look at, we'll get to the industrial blast furnace in a second here. Let's check out the rolling machine for an example. These basic machine frames, this is where things get expensive. You're going to need stacks and stacks of iron and buckets and buckets and buckets and buckets of water to run through the EFAB system. Just because these basic machine frames, this is an entire block of refined iron run through the metal press will get you this basic machine frame. But on top of that, you're looking at all this. Whoops, that's not what we wanted. Where did you go? Well, pretty much any of these machines, these basic machine frames are going to show up, and then shit tons of electronic circuits. Which brings us to our next thing here. Feel free to pick these up in any order. Just know that you're going to need this industrial electrolyzer. Take a look at what the requirements are to get down this way, because you are going to need to get down here in order to open up this thermal foregoing stuff. So this is where the machine frame and device frames kick in. If you are following along with this, you kind of have to go there anyway. That's just how the mod packs are built. But let's check this out. So let's take a look at the stronger tab, industrial blast furnace, and then the standard machine casings. So this is where things get incredibly expensive. But in order to make titanium, chrome, and tungsten, you have to have this, and there are some requirements. 34 of these standard machine casings. These get expensive. We'll look at this in a second. But each machine casing has a thermal value. So standard machine casings, they're at 40. Your reinforced is 68 and advanced is 95. They give you a couple bonus because you're going to have 2 empty slots in the middle. You fill them with lava source blocks. They add 500 heat apiece. Completing this again gives you 2 titanium ingots, which is a definite bonus because otherwise that's going to be kind of a pain in the ass. But let's take a look at this. So once you finally build the machine, so this industrial blast furnace, this guy here, a little bit expensive. So you're looking at a couple advanced electronic circuits. Remember, these are done through empowering. So you're looking at electronic circuits stuffed in there with reinforced metal. If you haven't done this with reinforced metal, this is just going to be, let's go through smelting. Most expensive part here is going to be this refined hardener. Remember, you get 5 of these guys, but this raw hardener is diamond shards in an EFAB grid, and it requires lava and water. Fortunately, it's not very much. It's only 50 millibuckets, so you don't really have to worry about that. So, some of these other expensive pieces, electric furnace isn't too bad. We kind of went over this in a previous episode. I skipped these. I didn't necessarily need them. But let's look at this advanced machine frame. This is where things get a little bit more complicated. This is probably the first machine you're seeing with advanced alloy. And that's going to be this mixed metal ingot. And the way this works, you craft these here. I went the cheap route, so it ended up refined iron, bronze, and tin. Did them at 2. You can do this with nickel. If you have the resources, go ahead and spend whatever you want to. It's your call. You do get an extra ingot out of this because of the rarity, I think. And if you look further down here, if you really wanted to do this, you could use Invar, brass, and aluminum for 5 per. And then you just kind of go ahead and smelt those out. But once you get this advanced alloy ingot, you're gonna have to run this through the metal press, and it gives you this advanced alloy plate. So you need 2 of those for this advanced machine frame. So your basic machine frame, again, this is industrial, or excuse me, refined iron. And the last piece of this is going to be carbon plate, and these aren't real complicated to make, kind of a pain in the ass. Let's take a look here what it takes to make carbon fiber. So you're looking at pulverized coal, run that through the grinder or whatever, you know, whatever you want. And we end up putting 2 of those bad boys together to make a carbon mesh. The carbon mesh goes into the compressor, so you're gonna have to have this too, that compressor. And those bad boys will get you hooked up with this advanced machine frame. So once you get this thing made, you put this down in an area that you think you want to put it, and it comes up with a cool UI. So it's this toggle multi-block hologram. Once you've got your 34 standard machine casings, you can click this H. It'll probably show up down here because it'll say multi-block not complete. You click the H, it'll show this formation, and you go ahead and start throwing these standard machine casings down. So let's take a look at the standard machine casing. And what we've got going here is basic machine frames, electronic circuits, and refined iron plates. So this setup here gets you 2 of these. You need 34 of them. So you're looking at an absolute shit ton of electronic circuits. Doing this in the Empower takes a while. So this is where things stop being so material intensive. And actually, I really can't say that. It is material intensive. It's more time consuming than anything else. It seems like this part, once you get to the point where you're starting to build this industrial blast furnace, this is where it gets kind of a lull, so it's more time. Now, I haven't been real aggressive with this, but power generation is going to come into play. So this is kind of part 1 of a 2-part lesson in energy, because we're going to go from basic energy to slightly less basic energy. But I think we'll cover that more in the next episode. Just keep in mind, this shit is incredibly expensive. You're going to have to go through and make a shit ton of refined iron, and that's all done over in an EFAB. If you've watched the previous episodes I've done, my EFAB setup was way the hell over there. I've moved it out here. There's some stuff hooked onto this I'm not going to go into just quite yet, but kind of keep in mind that the setup has changed a little bit. So you'll see the boilers there, steam engine. You can kind of arrange this however the hell you want, as long as it's a multi-block. And there are some extra blocks you can put in there to kind of make things a little bit more fancy. As far as your RF control stuff goes, I think we could probably go over that stuff now, and why don't we do that? Let's take a look at EFAB. And let's take a look at this. So we looked a little bit at the power upgrade here for this, with the titanium ingots, your quintuple battery, advanced coils. I mean, there's a significant amount of material there. But let's take a look at the RF controls. These aren't all that complicated. Just kind of keep in mind that the insulated gold cable, the only way you can get that is to crunch these gold cables out in the metal press and then coat them in latex. So make sure that you're keeping some logs in front of that machine. I think it's called the squeezer. I could be wrong. Let's take a look. Tree fluid extractor, excuse me. Squeezer is actually this guy. So we're looking at the tree fluid extractor. Keep running that latex out of there. If you're running out of places to store stuff, and I had mentioned this in basic tanks, and that was way back in quite a number of episodes, do not bother with this stone drum. Don't even piss around with it. I've discovered that there's another set of tanks here from Open Blocks that aren't changed. Now, these tanks operate a little bit differently. And let's take a look here. So I'm going to fill this up. Put a little bit of water in here, because I'm going to show this. But when you right click, it seems like, what the fuck? This shit isn't coming out of here. Why not? The difference between these open block tanks is that you have to find the block you're looking for and shift click it. Shift right click, excuse me, and it'll come out of there. It's kind of odd how it works. I haven't fully multi-blocked these things to see if, you know, that center block actually dumps this stuff out. I don't know if it actually works like that. I haven't tested it. I'll do that in some later episodes because I think I'm going to go crazy and go get a whole bunch of lava and see if I can get a whole bunch of water so I don't have to keep running back and forth, because I'm just about to that point where I'm going to start moving fluids. But keep that in mind. Don't worry about making a ton of these tanks just yet. You're going to have to make an advanced tank anyway, but just kind of keep that in mind that these tanks, they only hold, what, 4 buckets? No, 8. 8 buckets worth. But still, 8 buckets is better than spending the material on anything else. So let's take a look at that, what it costs. Oops. We're going to look at open blocks, if I can run a damn keyboard. So here's that tank right now. It's from Open Blocks. Looks expensive. Obsidian and then some glass in the middle. Obsidian shouldn't really be a problem. You should have already been in the nether by now. So bring a tank with. Fill it up with lava. Make some obsidian. Just make it happen. You know, if you're running out of storage, you have places, you know, you're running out of place to store creosote. Make some tanks. Just do it. In fact, I'm actually going to have to dump out the creosote that I've got stored here. So just keep that in mind, that these tanks are there. So I think that'll do it for this episode. We've kind of talked about the machines. The next episode, we'll talk more about the energy and how to utilize that just a little bit better. So until next time.